Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are EBS, your experienced technology partner. We specialize in the deployment of Sage Business Management and Microsoft solutions, managed services, and secure on-premises and cloud-based infrastructure. We are now in our 45th year. My name is Darren Tolley, and I'm one of the account managers here at EBS. Today, we are joined by Sicon, who we've partnered with for many, many years. Sicon are a Sage ISV, that's an independent solutions vendor, and provide a wide range of innovative, I knew that would trip me up one day.
Say, isn't it?
Not really. Innovative solutions for Sage 200. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Steve Gemott, who will give us an overview of Sicon's SOP and POP management solutions, which are fully integrated with Sage 200. We are recording today's presentation and we'll make this available to you in the next few days. There are lots of recordings on our YouTube channel. Remember to hit subscribe to receive notifications when we load new videos. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, or there will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation in the Q&A session. Without further ado, I will pass you over to Steve. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Darren. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. And I think the word you're looking for is innovative.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for everybody who's joined today. So thank you very much. I will turn my camera off in just a moment. But yeah, Steve Gemott, I'm the Sales Marketing Director at Sicon. So fortunately, you're stuck with me today doing the presentation. I will share my screen in just a second. But yeah, as Darren said, we're actually now classified by Sage as a Tech Partner Plus. Essentially, we're a developer partner of Sage, something which we've done for in excess of 20 years. And if I just share my screen, and Darren, I'll ask you to just confirm that you can see the Sicon website.
Indeed, I can.
Excellent. We write add-ons for Sage 200 and at present only Sage 200. So actually all of these modules listed, some of them vertical specific, some of them to enhance kind of the financial side of things. They're all designed to complement Sage 200 in some way. Now, what it means from your perspective is you don't necessarily know where Sage stops, Sicon starts, or vice versa. So it's I often think of it, it's like the Mary Poppins bag, where if you need something, we've probably got it. Now, what we're going to focus on today are two modules that are available. So you purchase them individually, but from within our distribution stack. And those are POP management and SOP management. Now, please do visit the website after the session. There's a wealth of information, both under the product, from the sales collateral. But actually, if you go into the help and user guides, into distribution, and for example, say POP management, there are user guides. They're all public facing. They're designed for customers to have it's designed for customers who've had training, you know, as a useful refresher guide. But I think it's quite nice to have a look at this particular stage here. So in terms of the two solutions, what are they? So I'm actually going to start with SOP management first, and then we'll look at POP management. So it's a series of enhancements to existing Sage 200 functionality. So from the SOP side, there's a number of elements that are on the sales order screen, just to make the entry of orders quicker, give a bit more visibility. There's also a couple of other screens then. One of those, my particular favorite, is enabling you to allocate or unallocate stock, but on bulk as well, and see that from a different view, as well as one way you can track lost orders. So we'll run through those different elements. From the POP management side, again, it's similar to the SOP, where we're obviously enhancing that. Again, a couple of buttons actually on the purchase order. But then the biggest one that a lot of customers will use will be landed costs. That tends to be the key one there, so we'll talk through that today, and just a couple of other utilities that might enhance your experience. So from a Sage 200 perspective, hopefully you all recognize Sage here. I've got every single Sicon add-on installed, which is why my menu is far busier than yours. But in terms of the way the modules appear, again, it's just exactly the same as present, where you either give somebody access to that menu option. The buttons that are on the screens, they'll just appear naturally. So we're going to be looking inside, as I say, inside SOP and inside POP. Now, once it's first installed, there will be consultancy to support you on this. There are a number of settings where we can switch certain items on, and I will come back to this, but I actually just want to start down at the bottom here. So where we can control what sales order buttons will appear, and that's where I'm going to start today. So you can switch off a number of these buttons should they be relevant. So sales order, standard Sage sales order. Now, some customers would love to use the rapid order because it's just far easier to add the lines on, but you miss out some of the functionality of the full order. So as I say, we've tried to do that transition. So when we've opened the full order and we pick our customer, so I'll just pick Belfast will do. One of the first pop-ups you'll get with SOP Management installed is this screen where it's going to show any undispatched sales orders. So the idea behind this is, if you've got a customer phone number saying, I'd like to order this, could you tag it to an existing sales order that you've yet to send out? So again, it's just presenting that should you wish, and you could select it and you could amend. I'm just going to close that and move on. You then get presented with this screen as well. And the idea here is, and I'm not for 1 minute suggesting any of the salespeople within your organizations are the same, but we do have a reputation of skipping some of the admin details when we've got the carrot dangled in front of us of a new sale. So it's bringing some of the key bits, so making sure we select or add the correct customer delivery address at the front rather than remembering to go to the correct tab in the background there. Any relevant analysis codes that you might have set, so it brings those visibility, as well as any specific customer notes that you might have added as well. So if you're okay with that, that's all fine. So this is where, depending on what you've got switched on, you're going to get a series of buttons. So the ones that are relevant for SOP management would be the add historical lines, copy lines, telesales, templates, and copy and paste. So you do, if we go into the traditional add items screen, you will also get, if I just expand this slightly further, a couple of other buttons as well. We'll just maximize that for a moment. So as I add a stock item in, one of the first ones that I want to touch on is this, item superseded. And basically it's just telling me that this has been superseded, and that's something that you get as part of the SOP management as well. So the way that's set up is if we go to our stock list, and I pick these espresso machines, we will have a Sicon tab, and on there will be distribution, and this is where we can flag. So you can see clearly which is SOP management. This item has been superseded, and you just pick another stock item, and what it will do is it will continue to pop up until such time as you flag it as discontinued, or if you archive the stock record. So again, it's quite nice if you've got a newer version of that particular product as a pop-up for your end user. So if we just go back into the line there, add the lines on. By the way, the superseded will pop up with these other ones as well. Just obviously showing you that there. So let me pick my ACS espresso machine here. I'm not going to change. If I said yes, it would swap those stock items around. And at this point, I can say how many do I want? So I want 3 of those. All of that is bulk standard Sage. But the lost orders. So I mentioned earlier that one of the areas of SOP management is being able to track lost orders. So the idea behind this is, if I click on lost orders, it's a way of being able to say, actually, a customer, it might be we don't have enough stock, or it might be that it was too expensive. So rather than, they might still buy some stuff, but I can actually track that actually they're not going to buy this particular item. They're going to buy it for somewhere else. They are still. So what you don't want to do is cancel the whole of the sales order, but we want to track that particular item they're not going to buy. So in terms of the reasons, you set these up in the background of the system. So it might be no stock, price, lead times too long. Add some additional information, and as you save that away, it will store that in the back end, which I'll show you in just a moment, and it'll allow you then to carry on with taking the rest of the order. And what you'll notice again is that lost button is on these other areas as well, and that stores that information back in the distribution folder just up here. lost orders inquiry, and just within here, we can then see a history of all of those. The whole kind of authorize is basically just to say we've seen those. You can right mouse click dump it out to Excel, and you could select all and then delete them if that's not relevant and you want to move those out. But it's just a way of just being able to track that. Now, for those of you perhaps have got other Sicon distribution modules, one of those being the future sales, where it will look at your historical usage. It can then also take those lost orders into account from that side, and you just tell it which reasons are going to be relevant, because price wouldn't be. So again, that's where we can store that. And in terms of the various different lost reasons, you set those up there, and so that minimum stock is for the future sales module, if that's relevant. So coming back to our sales order, so let's have a look at these buttons and do what they do. I'm actually going to jump into the telesales one first. So I mentioned earlier about the rapid sales. People like that because you can just quickly tap along. Well, actually, this is where, as I start to search my espresso machine, I've still got my superseded items popped up. We display your free stock in there, the quantity the customer wants. It's telling us the price that's been pulled through from the stock item. Do I want to give a discount? No, I'm just going to keep tabbing through, and I can just keep adding stock items to this to my heart's content. And once I'm happy, I can click add line to the sales order, which I will in a second. And of course, I've got my lost orders button there as well. You do also get a distribution button. Now, some of these will appear depending on the blend, but again, we do have the ability to view, for example, previous sales orders from within here. So for the espresso cup, when they bought them, the quantity they bought and what the selling price was. So again, if you've got the scenario where customers saying, no, I only paid £4.50. Well, actually, no, I can see here we paid £5. So again, you get access to those. But if you want to add them to the sales order line, you click that button and there they go. And it's a lot quicker, but you've still got the additional functionality of the full order. Copy line. So if I just move to the left there, that's again, it's a great one where the customer says, oh, can I just reorder what I ordered previously? Or I've ordered these before. So again, we could search, we could find a specific sales order, but just being able to say, well, okay, actually, right, it was that, we can add that line to it. But being able to pick from previous sales orders, and it'll drop in there with what the price was. Add historical lines is a slightly different take on that. So what this particular screen will do, this will show all of the stock items that this particular customer's bought, and it'll only list one stock item per customer. So essentially the last time that they bought it. So we can see again when they're saying, oh, I bought a coffee machine, I can't remember which one. Well, okay, it was either, was it this particular one? You bought it on the 31st of July. Yeah, that sounds about right. You bought 5 of them, that's the price you paid. Well, by the way, actually, that's now been superseded by an additional item. And again, just being able to drive those conversations. I'll come back to templates in a second. I want to touch on this copy and paste. And there's often I think in software development, you're looking at the big things where you go, oh, this is a brand new module or something quite chunky. But there are occasions where something so simple, you go, this is fantastic. And for me personally, this copy and paste is one of those. So the idea here is all you need is just from an Excel spreadsheet, just 2 columns. You need the stock item code and the quantity. So if you get that from your customer, you just select those, you copy that, and then you come into your sales order. So you pick your customer like we've done, you go through a couple of screens, and you just now click on copy and paste. And what it's going to do is it's going to check, make sure those codes are valid, of course, in the stock, and it will come back with errors if there are. Because it's superseded, it's saying, well, do you want to use that item instead? So again, what we talked about earlier, if I click on accept, it's validated. You can see now it's just dropped both of those in the list here. If I go over to show quantities, so we can see there, because I've got auto allocate, it's also allocated the stock for me as well. So a great, for me, it's a really nice one where, yeah, if you've got long orders, get it into a spreadsheet. You've just got the quantity. Obviously, the only elephant in the room is it's using the list prices. So you might need to just go in a couple of lines and just perhaps tweak the prices. But again, it's a great way of just quickly being able to get those items in. So that's those buttons. The last one that we've added is you can switch on this button, which is Save, Allocate, and Dispatch, and it does exactly that. Now, for those of you perhaps using other Sicon add-ons such as barcoding, you'd switch this off because, of course, you want to dispatch those on the handheld. But actually, if you're not using any form of warehouse management, and it's basically your process is you dispatch the stock, send the paperwork down, and then the warehouse pick and pack it based on that paper document. What this will do is if I were to click on Save, it would allocate what stock it can, and then it will just automatically dispatch those stock lines as well. So rather than you click Save, then go into the allocate side and then do the separate dispatch process. Again, those buttons, as I said earlier, can be switched off, and that's just purely from the settings. The screen that I spoke about, which is, we call it managing SOP back orders, it's possibly my favorite screen in distribution, if it's not too sad to have a favorite screen. Now, I've been tidying up my data, so I don't have too much data in here. But the idea behind this screen is if I just click on display, is this is going to display all of the sales orders that require stock to be allocated, but also all of the sales orders where stock has been allocated, but we've yet to dispatch. So a couple of scenarios here. The first one is, we've got a customer who, whilst I appreciate all customers are equal, this particular customer, we want to go over and above for them because for whatever different reasons. And they require, as an emergency, these espresso machines, and we haven't got any in stock. So rather than running off reports and then finding the sales order and manually unallocating as you would at the moment, coming into this particular screen, being able to see, okay, well, actually, that particular site, I reckon we could free those up and just ticking, or again, you could select all if you wanted to, and you can unallocate selected items. Also, if for those of you using batch or serial, from within here, we might have allocated, but you can amend the serial or batch number that you've allocated as well. So it's a multi-use option there. For some other customers where they perhaps don't auto-allocate, and then somebody's manually going through and choosing which ones to allocate, again, this is a great screen because what it will do is it will display the quantity of free stock, and as you allocate down the lines, that free stock will go down. But at the top here, we can filter by customer, so we can allocate by customer, select all and allocate. That's that it's done. Or we can just say, right, let's have a look at everything that needs to be delivered this week. And you can sort the columns, as you can see there, and it will change the sort orders as well. So for me, it's a really powerful screen, especially for those of you handling, lots of sales orders. So those are kind of the major feature that we got in there. There's a couple of other bits, and then we'll move over to the pot management. One of those, and I skipped it earlier on the sales order, we'll go back in a second, is the ability to create what we call sales order templates. Now, these aren't dynamic, but you saw the button on the sales order for templates. So you create different templates, it might be a Black Friday specials. I think we're coming into that season now where we'll start advertising those. So, example here, we can say, got up to 25% off, but what it will do is it will drop all of the items on the template. Other customers have used this. It might be, the whole series of templates, but we know in the sales team, if we sell product X, we just find, we know that we've got a template for some other solutions that will go with that. And it's just a quick way to be able to add them. It's not dynamic, so you can't link the template to a stock item. So there is a bit of knowledge, but it's just a great way of being able to drop essentially a kit of parts onto that sales order in a nice, easy way. Last couple of bits from within here. This particular one, sales price user permissions. So this is just a very simple utility that you get within there, where we can control, you know, when you enable this, what users can create price book or amend price book. So if you're using price books within the system, so Sage's standard price books, can, you know, just controlling what your team can do, which is quite nice. And the last one I want to touch on is really this particular list view here. So you've got your standard Sage list view, but this particular one is actually, it's a line list. So you can use it alongside. So actually showing you all of the SOP lines. And then what we've got, the requested, the promised dates, and we can see all of the line details, but these are just the outstanding line quantities. So it's not showing you every single sales order. These are just the lines on there that we've yet to dispatch. So the quantity. So again, just a slightly different take on that view. And as with Sage's standard list views, you can add other columns in place. You can move the columns around as well. So I will come back to dashboard shortly, but that's really the bulk of what you get within the SOP management. POP management, yeah, of course, it's going to be on the other side of the coin. And where I'm actually going to start is I'm just going to put a purchase order on the system. Again, if I come down, I'm going to pick a supply called Copay, and we're going to say they're going to be delivered today. So just for the moment, again, we can add our lines on there. Actually, yeah, sorry. What I wanted to show you on there, as we add a line. So if I pick my espresso machine again, one feature you can switch on or off within POP management. It's in the settings I'll show you later. Again, the superseded will pop up, but it's this particular field here. So if you've got a supplier part number on the stock item linked against the supplier on the stock item, then you can switch on and it will also display their part number as well. So again, it's just that double check. You can switch that off if that's not relevant. So we're going to buy, I don't know, 10 of those. I'm just going to add 10 in. Need to pick a warehouse, of course. So yeah, that'll be fine. We've also got, again, as you saw before, add historical lines. So these are the things that we've bought from that particular supplier the last time, what warehouse we bought them in. So again, being able to just add the quantity. So yeah, we'll buy 56 of those, 5 of those, and then just being able to add those to the purchase order as well. But for the eagle-eyed view, you will have seen the copy and paste button. So yes, that same copy and paste function we've got on the purchase order side. So just copy 2 columns exactly the same, copy and paste. It will prompt and say, well, you do need to have a default. So unfortunately, I can't do that. It's been overwritten. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me create another one, and I'll set the default. The default purchase order really doesn't matter. Sorry, default warehouse. So it does need to have a default warehouse. But if I just click on copy and paste, there you go. It's picked up the buying prices from again, standard Sage relevant areas there, drop those quantities in, and away we go. I can just click on save. There's our purchase order ready for us to proceed. What you also get within the POP management, we've got the concept of these dashboards. Now, if I refresh that, I might be, yeah, it should have shown that one up. I'm not sure why it's not, but essentially we've got a standard dashboard in there which will show the expected deliveries today. So it's just a dashboard in the system. You might already have some built, but it's just got a nice view to be able to see those. Now, we've also got inspection. So I just want to jump down here. So for those of you already using, say, barcoding and warehousing, then you've got inspection functionality in there. It works very similar. Essentially, it pivots off the back of it. But perhaps those of you who aren't using that, but you want to, for certain stock items, you want to be able to inspect them before they're essentially moved into the main warehouse. So what we've got is this option for stock inspections. I'm actually just going to go back to my purchase order up here. So for BlueSys, I'm just going to add one extra line on there. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to add my kettle. The reason for that will become clear shortly. So we're just going to purchase one kettle, and that's absolutely fine there. Now, the difference with the kettle to the other stock items is if I save this and I go back to my stock list, I haven't got that open there. I just filter the list here, look for my kettle. With this enabled, you'll get an additional button just down here. Ignore that pop-up, that's from our enhancement pack. But you'll have this tick box here. And basically, it's saying that an inspection is required when we receive the purchase order in. So I've got this particular item checked. And what you do in the settings, so if we go back to our distribution settings, I go into SOP Management, is make sure that this area is set up here. So what it's basically saying is items that require inspection, when the goods receive them, they're going to automatically be put into a bin called inspection. So you just need to make sure you've got, or whatever bin you decide to call it. If I pass it, then obviously it's available in the main warehouse. But if I fail it, then what warehouse do we want to move the fail? So what's our quarantine warehouse? So I've got an inspection warehouse, and then what bin within there do we want to move that into? So there's a bit of setup in there. Once you've got that done, the way the system works, if we go back to our purchase order, when our goods receive this in, standard Sage goods received, we'll receive all of those in there, which is absolutely fine. As I save, what you can see there is already it's set the inspection bin. So it's, if I look at the stock history, if I've got this set up correctly, which is always the joy of these live sessions. But if we look at the all that, there you go. If you look at the history, we can see it's currently sat in a bin called inspection. Now, what we have now is if I come back into SOP Management, this screen called Stock Inspections, we display, this will show us all of the products essentially that are sat in that area that require inspection. So there's my kettle there. And at this point, I can pass or fail. So it's as simple as that. And I can just go, yeah, I'm going to pass those. I'm sorry, the quantity I've inspected, 1 and 1. So again, just follow the rules. And I can pass. I can now select the bin that I want to move it into. Obviously, I haven't got any bins set up, and I can save, and it would move it into that appropriate bin. So again, it's a way of just giving that next layer just to cover off inspection. But not relevant, then you don't need to use it. The big one that from within here, and then I'll go through a couple of the others that customers use this for, is extended landed costs, and that really is probably the main feature here that customers are using. So those of you at the moment using standard Sage landed costs, you'll be aware at the moment you flag your warehouses or warehouses that are attributable for landed costs. You set up your suppliers, and against your stock items, you've got essentially one value and you've got one nominal. Now, what we've done is we've extended this so you can have up to 6 landed cost types. As you can see, I'm using 5, each with an associated nominal. So the way the system works is, and I'll show you a couple of the screens in a moment, is when you goods receive the stock item in, it books it in at the gross price. It then credits and debits out to Sages, and then we credit debit out to those individual nominals. So you've got more granularity of your details. They are still at present, it's percentage or value. And you can't mix and match. It's something which is on the wish list for us to look at, but it is at the moment percentage or value, but it does just give that bit more granularity there. So a few bits of setup. So first one, if I come to my stock list and I look at, got a stock item called landed. There we go, my landed costs stock item. So first things first, on the landed costs, I've got mine percentage based. And what I've got there is then by supplier, how my 10% is split. So 3% container, etc., etc. So of course, you'd have your different landed cost splits per supplier. In terms of your suppliers, my warehouse is set up as well in terms of kind of the main location. So I think it's my Sunderland warehouse is my landed costs warehouse in the system. If I go to my purchase ledger accounts, again, there's a bit of setup on the supplier as well. So if I go to on imports, if we go to the Sicon tab, distribution, again, under POP management, this is where we've got the percentage base. And what's quite nice here is where your supplier is set up already against your stock items. If you were to deploy this and the landed cost percentages or values in this are the same, then you can just enter them here against the record and go update all of the percentages against any of the stock records where this supplier is set up. So we do have that option there as well. So from there, once all of that's configured, we come into purchase order processing. We add our order. So John's imports. So we pick John's imports. We've got our landed costs column there. We want it in for tomorrow. As we add our items, there we go. Sorry, finding the stock item there. So land 001. Going to do it for Sunderland quantity. So we'll go 10 just for nice simplicity there. And what we can see is the landed costs percentage over there. So we know there's landed costs on there. Going to save that line. Obviously, there could be multiple lines with different ones. But if we go to the landed costs tab, what it's doing is it's now working out what the provision's going to be at this particular time. So what you do is you'd save your order, you'd print and email or post out, whatever the your process is, the purchase order. Now, before you goods receive, and unfortunately, it's exactly the same as with Sage, you have to try and get your landed costs as correct as you can before you goods receive your stock in, because it's at that point that it's triggered. Because we can't do it once it's invoiced, because of course you're going to receive different invoices from the freight, etc. So for the landed costs, we've got the provisional. We could put the actuals in, so we could overwrite some of the actuals. We've got an option there. We can apportion if we want to. But if we're happy with all of that, all I need to do is just confirm the landed costs. So make sure you do that just before you your goods receive, and then your process is essentially the same. So we'll confirm our goods received in there. We'll receive 10 of those in. And if I save this, so they're now in stock. It's going to record my invoice just to close out the close the loop there. Obviously, this is the invoice for the stock items, not the landed costs. So it's the net of these. If I just post my invoice there, ignore that. That's one of our other add-ons to pop up there. It will pop up Sage's standard post invoice screen. So again, nothing different here. I'm not going to authorize that. But what we can see, I've got Sicon projects on, so which is why I'm looking at this tab, obviously not. But we've got, there's our landed, so there's the gross value, the deduction for our landed costs. If we come to the landed costs tab, we can then see what the postings are going to be. If we're happy with all of that, if I click on the save, And with that posted, obviously our purchase order is complete at this point. But if I go into my current transactions list, hopefully, yes, perfect. Sometimes it drops into waiting, but we can see here all of those landed cost movements, the credit debits as we go through in terms of obviously those relevant postings. And then all you're doing when you get the duty or the freight invoices, you just make sure you code it, and it should, hopefully it nets off. If not, you're going to do a few adjustments, but it just gives a bit more granularity to that. Right, last couple of bits then from the POP side, and then we'll open up and see if there's any further questions. So a couple of other bits that you get within POP management. First one is supplier catalog. So the idea behind this is, and I don't know if I've actually got anything, no, I haven't got anything set up. The idea here is against a supplier, we can create a catalog. So this is perfect for customers who don't use stock. So they don't hold stock, they don't use stock, but they want they want a stock list essentially, or a catalogue of parts. So it makes it quicker and easier for ordering. So what you can do is you can create these supplier catalogues. So the idea there is give it a code, but they're linked to the supplier, what the buying price is, what your nominal, if there's any description, and you build up this catalogue. When you go to order, you select from the catalogue when it's configured, and it will then drop those in as free text lines on the purchase order. So you're not receiving stock, but it's a way of, I suppose, yeah, essentially having a book of items you can buy from that particular supplier. So quite niche. So a lot of customers will use stock, but it's great for those who just don't want the hassle of, you know, even miscellaneous stock items. No, we just do it as free text, but we've got the catalogue of buying prices essentially. Supply KPIs. So again, I'm just going to come down here to the settings. So in terms of POP management, so making sure that that's switched on in there. But if we come into the maintenance area, once it's switched on, what you've got here is it's a very simple KPI. Now, if you're using dashboards, you're probably doing this already, but it's just something we've dropped in if you don't. So you can color code and just give your own. So I've gone, well, how many days late? Well, early is they're not late. If they're on time, they're not late. Slightly late is up to 3 days. Late is up to 10 days, and that's kind of a final band because anything else afterwards. So we can, once you've done that, you can update your KPIs across all of your records. So I'll just do that, make sure that's been updated. But of course, you can have lots of different sort of KPIs right the way down to individual days. And all we're doing is color coding. And then once I've updated those changes, perhaps that I've made to this, wait for that to finish. So that's just going through, looking at all of the essentially the deliveries against all of the suppliers in the system. Come into supplier KPI. You pick your date range. No, actually, I do. So in the last 12 months, there's a list of all the suppliers that I've purchased something from, the number of lines that I've bought from them, the percentage they're early, percentage they're on time, slightly based on obviously the metrics I've set up, and then what their KPI score is. And if I picked, for example, BlueSys, we've got a monthly analysis as we go through where they were slightly late. So are there any trends against that? We can view particular lines, so get a bit more granularity. So which ones were within the scores? And we can also print that information out should we wish. So it's a nice, simple KPI solution. This particular screen, again, they're just little add-ons. Say most customers would buy it for maintaining landing costs, tends to be the key one. The copy and paste is another one that I would, but you get some of these additional ones. So again, POP expected delivery dates, it might be for a specific stock item. So when have we got espressos machines coming in? So we're not expecting any at the moment. What have we got due dates, etc. Stock item location wizard. This is kind of great to be able to copy. Essentially what it does is you get your product group, and within the product group, display all the stock items, and actually just on bulk update reorder minimum maximum levels against sort of the warehouses against those particular stock items, but also copy stock items from one warehouse to another. It's not going to copy the quantities, but again, if you're setting up a new warehouse, rather than having to go to each individual stock item to do it, just basically copy, got the source warehouse, copy the destination, and it'll just add that warehouse to those stock items. And then a couple more views. Supplier price list with quantity breaks. So this is a nice one. It's actually in our enhancement pack as well, but being able to, again, for a supplier, start to be able to add in quantity breaks. So for our espresso machines from this particular supplier, if they supply a quantity of more than one, then the price is going to be £300. If it's more than 5, then it goes down to 280 or 180. Kind of get the idea, and you can build up these quantity breaks, which of course, as we add them to purchase orders, will be reflected as well. Again, one thing just on there, obviously I've gone in one at a time, but you can import. So there is imports on there. You're not going to have to sit and do that for 10,000 stock items. We've got an extended view for purchase orders, and that's just the, again, just the additional information for items where it's confirmed. So there's a confirmed flag to say, yeah, they're coming in. And then we've got a line list, just the same as with the SOP management, to show our outstanding lines and when they should be coming in. For those of you who've got Container Manager, then it does display the container details in there. For those of you who don't, those columns aren't available. So a lot of things in there. The last bit, and I will open it up, in the settings, there's, as I mentioned before, there's a number of elements, so you can switch them on. So again, just be here with a supplier part number, but there's a couple of others. So that historical, and it's the same in the SOP management. How far back do you want to look? Do you want to enable the copy and paste? Even there's an option there to allow the POP delivery address to be amended. Obviously, something Sage locks down as well to if you've got usage calculations excluding the different warehouses. And on the SOP management, the back orders as well. If you use analysis codes, historical sales, some details on there, the number of results it's going to bring back as well. So in terms of that, you get a lot of value within there, and often it's one or two little points. But Darren, that's really what I was going to show today.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Steve. In terms of dashboards, I know on the POP side there wasn't anything in that particular one. Just as an example, do we have any that we can see? Yeah,
so in terms of what we've done with these dashboards, so you will get these sort of generic 5 dashboards. Now, I'll go into another module. I don't know if I've got anything in with any data. So there are some which come out the back box. But the idea behind these is, if I just edit one of these, they can actually be built by yourselves. They could be built by Darren and the team at EBS, because they're written via SQL, so they don't have to be limited to the distribution functionality. And what we can have list views, we can have pie charts, bar charts, fields within there. And if I just went to create a new one, for example, if it's fields, you can have lots of sort of different lists in there. If it's pie chart, but because it's written by SQL, these could be used for financial dashboards. They could be used for warehouse type dashboards. So it's something we created a while back. We've not really done a huge amount with, but we're starting to push them. But yeah, just to show a couple of examples of what we can do. If I go down to, I pick my CRM one. So these aren't sort of relevant, but just to give you an idea of how information can be displayed. So there's an example there of list views, and you can pop them out as well, so you can put them onto another screen. So that's a list view, and you can right mouse click and dump them out. There's bar charts. We can do pie charts as well. I think if I go into my customer service one, there again, just some examples there of just different ways of displaying that information. So from the distribution side, again, it could well be a list view of what deliveries we're expecting. You might have for sales, yeah, you could sends you great dashboards for, who've you been your biggest customers for the week. It's that sort of thing. But because they're written by SQL, so long as the data's in there in a logical fashion, so you're not trying to report on purchase orders by link to sales ledger accounts, which of course you can't. It's logical. That's where they can be used, and of course they're within the Sage system. So it's a nice value add, Darren, in there, and you get the ones. So there's one out of the box with POP management. We don't have any out of the box with SOP, but you do get these 5 distribution dashboards, and again, where you can then add and maintain them. And that's very much something which I know you guys, Darren, have other options when it comes to dashboards, but it might be something as simple where customers go, well, could we just do this? And it's quicker and easier to do it in there.
Grand. Thank you very much. So are there any questions from anyone?
I never know whether when it goes quiet whether we've done a good job or not, but yeah, hopefully there might be some questions.
Not from me, thank you.
No worries.
Okie dokie. Right, we can probably finish up there. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Steve, for doing that. And I can see you showing the helping user guides again. Lots and lots of details on the helping user guides. I frequently send these out to my sites when we're looking at adding functionality via Sicon in various areas of the system. But they're useful things to have for any modules that you've already got.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time. And yeah, as I always say, Darren, if there's any questions or if people want to arrange a session just to kind of almost go through on a one-to-one, which make it more relevant to their business, obviously always happy to help.
Brilliant. Thank you. This recording will be on our YouTube channel, and I'll send it out to everyone that's registered. It will be 2 to 3 days, I guess, before that's ready to go. As Steve says, any questions, fire those back. If you would like a one-to-one, then we can arrange that. But once again, thanks everyone. We'll see you again soon.